Good morning, everyone, and Chad Perry, you're welcome, because I found a way to make Eldrazi Stompy work, I think. Now, this is slightly budget because we don't have Caverns of Souls. They're very expensive, even online, even with the reprint coming, and even with, I might have gotten reprinted in the supplemental set already, I'm not sure. However, I think I found a list that might work. So some of the tech lands that we're trying out that aren't standard are Radiant Fountain to gain a little bit of life, Bonder's Enclave because we have a lot of creatures with power 4 or greater, and Seagate Wreckage to help basically get more more cards out of our deck. The other tech choice versus I don't have all of the Chalice of the Voids, I only have 2, and this deck list called for 4, so I dropped 2 Chalice of the Voids, 1 Walking Ballista into the side, and 1 Dismember out of the deck to run Eldrazi Mimics instead, and we're going to try and play a little bit more aggressive. And I don't think I made any other changes to this list, so without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into a Modern League with Eldrazi Stompy. Alright, I would like to play first, yes. Turn 1 map, turn 2 Chalice, turn 3... potentially Thought-Knot Seer, or activate and we can get Eldrazi Temple for Thought-Knot Seer. Okay, opponent mulligans to 6. I hope this is a deck that Chalice is good against. Alright, we are going to start with Wastes and play map. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays Forest, Arbor Elf. So my opponent is likely on some form of Ponza. So we'll play Radiant Fountain. It might be better to just ping the Elf. I think I'm going to do that. And we'll throw down Chalice on 0. Pass the turn. So what we do next turn depends pretty heavily on whether or not we draw land and whether or not we draw Eldrazi Temple. Okay. Opponent is playing Utopia Sprawl, which it's kind of unfortunate that we didn't put a Chalice on 1. So we could have gotten rid of the... we could have prevented our opponent from casting the Utopia Sprawl. Okay, we get a Thought-Knot. It's getting kind of late for a Chalice on 1, so I think I'm just going to map for Eldrazi Temple. Yeah. Play Temple, and we'll go ahead and play Mimic. Our opponent can downtick Wrenn and 6 to kill Mimic, but this is the most effective use of our mana this turn. Really hoping my opponent does not have a Stone Rain. Okay, they play a Forest. They downtick Wrenn. Okay, they play Bone Crusher Giant. We untap. I was really worried about that being a Stone Rain. Okay, let's play a Thought-Knot, take a peek at what's going on in our opponent's hand. Lightning Bolt and land. Okay, so we know our opponent has a Windswept Heath and nothing else. So I think next turn... ooh, opponent might have something to play this turn. If this is a Glorybringer that they top-decked, we're going to be really sad. Okay, opponent picks up their land, plays an Arbor Elf, and they do not attack. We draw Tectonic Edge. So, we know the card in their hand is Windswept Heath. So I think my plan this turn is play Tectonic Edge, nuke Stomping Ground, and I'm going to play Chalice on 1, because it helps shuts off a lot of their deck. Pass the turn, no attacks. This Bone Crusher Giant and Thought-Knot Seer are kind of awkwardly staring each other down at the moment. Okay, opponent plays a Windswept Heath, cracks it, gets another Stomping Grounds. And they pick up Windswept Heath. We untap. We draw Eldrazi Mimic. Okay. Well, now we can play 2 Eldrazi Mimics in a turn, so we're going to. Okay. Pass the turn. Our opponent can likely kill 1, but they're not going to be able to kill both, I don't think, without access to Lightning Bolt. I don't think my opponent had any 0 mana spells, so it's possible that putting Chalice down on 0 was just wrong. We might have wanted to save it until we could put it down on 2. But I wasn't sure. Okay, opponent plays a Bloodbraid Elf. Cascades into a Klothys, which is pretty good. Klothys enters the battlefield as a creature. Okay, we untap. We draw a Maze Mind Tome, which is going to give us quite a bit of value. But right now we're going to play Thought-Knot Seer. Okay, stack the triggers like this. We will turn our Mimics into 4/4s. Opponent is holding 2 lands. Okay. Go to combat. Attack with everything. We lose one guaranteed to Clothis. I think we attack everything at Renin 6. Actually, I think we just attack our opponent. Renin 6 is annoying because it can down tick to kill mimics, but at the same time we want to just be getting damage in at our opponent's face here. This opponent blocks the Thought Knots here, they'll kill it for free. They're going to trade off a Bone Crusher, but they are not trading off their other two creatures. Okay, opponent gets to draw a card off of the Thought Knot dying, and they take 4. Yeah, they wouldn't trade off their other two creatures when they have the option to down tick just to kill it. So right now we're not matching up very well with what our opponent's doing. I think I made one minor play mistake on the Chalice there, but at the same time, Renin 6 is pretty brutal when you're playing X1s. Okay, opponent plays a Seasoned Pyromancer, discards 2 lands, draws 2 new cards. So the biggest problem we have right now is that, well, is now that. Opponent plays a Windswept Heath and a Scooze. Okay. Yeah, I think our hand was really derpy versus our opponent's. So we can play a Maze Mind to Tome, and we can start drawing a few extra cards. But my opponent is already very far ahead. They're about to alt Renin 6, but they don't currently have anything they can retrace for a bunch. And we don't have any of these super big Eldrazi in this list. Okay, opponent eats map. I'm trying to think of how we get out of this. Hopefully by drawing more cards than our opponent. Okay, opponent makes a big Scooze, goes to combat, attacks. I'm not going to chump with Mimic. If my opponent wants Mimic dead, they're going to have to kill it with Renin 6. A second Magus of the Moon. Okay. We could potentially draw all the way up to an All Is Dust. Okay. Play Power Plant. Draw an extra card. We could play Spatial Contortion. I'm trying to think of cards that we can draw and play. Okay, Reality Smasher will be somewhat okay. If nothing else, just to help block up the board a bit. We could make a big swing, but the swing back would be invariably lethal. If our opponent wants to keep draining us, they have to start exiling cards out of their own grave. So they exile Utopia Sprawl. Drain us for 2. Okay. Elder Gargaroth. I think we're drawing up to our All Is Dust. Did I leave that in the deck? I did. Okay. Yeah, we basically have to get to All Is Dust to win, which we have a lot of extra draws to get to, but we do not have a lot of blocking power here. It's possible I should have mulliganed more aggressively than I did. Yeah, I think my opponent just swings and I die. Yeah. Okay. They got us. So against red-green, Ponza, Blood Moon, mid-range, whatever you want to call it. What do we bring in? I kind of like having Ratchet Bomb. And I think Spatial Contortion is more for like the burn matchup than it is for our opponent's deck. It could be good here. Mimic is actually like horrendously bad. So I think we're going to swap Mimics out for Walking Ballistas. I will leave one Walking Ballista in the side. And I think bring in another Spatial Contortion. And run only one Mimic. The rest is an Artifact Wishboard for Karn Great Creator. So, there's still the possibility we could have a fast hand with Mimic. Like, turn 1 Temple and Mimic, turn 2 Temple, Thought Knot, turn 3 Land, Smasher. But, like, while that's ideal, it's not likely. Alright, we'll keep. Since we're on the play, we're pretty safe to play Eldrazi Temple on turn 1. If we were on the draw, I think I would start any other land in my hand, simply because the possibility for my opponent to go land Arbor Elf, land Stone Rain, or land Blood Moon exists. And getting your Temple Stone Rained when you're playing Eldrazi really sucks. Okay, so our opponent starts land Utopia Sprawl. We're going to play Power Plant and Matter Reshaper. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays a Wooded Foothills, cracks it. Gets a basic forest, another Utopia Sprawl on red, Blood Moon. Okay. Well, we have Ratchet Bomb and we have Karn, so it's not like we're out of the game. We can also take our opponent off of 2 Utopia Sprawls, attack our opponent for 3, pass the turn. Which, honestly, denying the mana might be more powerful, simply because we have Karn, and Karn is going to be wishing for big artifact threats. Or liquid metal coating. And right now we can take them totally off of red. Okay. We no longer can take them totally off of red. Okay, opponent plays a Cinder Vines, which they can use to get rid of Ratchet Bomb. They do. So we're going to fizzle the ability simply so we don't lose life. Okay. Opponent passes. We untap. We draw Ugin. Ugin will be a good follow-up. So, go to combat. Attack for 3. My opponent has left up 1 red mana, which means they probably have Bolt. Meaning that wishing with Karn here is kind of risky. But we're not doing anything else with Karn. And we kind of need some card advantage here. We will be on 5 mana, if that informs our decision any. We could take Walking Ballista, just to have. It wouldn't be bad here. We could also take Liquid Metal Coating, which is like our biggest high roll, but the problem is, if we take Liquid Metal Coating, our opponent just bolts Karn and we lose Karn. Like Pithing Needle, Sorcerer's Spyglass could potentially be good as well, but I think the play is to just take Ballista. Or Sky Sovereign, actually. Sky Sovereign is not bad, and is something we can play next turn that can interact with our opponent's board and kill something like Bloodbraid. I'm actually going to take Sky Sovereign. We're going to see if we can't win a mid-range matchup with Sky Sovereign, which is, I think, what this is for. Okay, opponent plays Arbor Elf. And pillages our temple, sure. And bolts Karn. Okay, so they did have the Lightning Bolt, which I'm fairly confident we made the right play then. Alright, play Tech Edge. So, putting Chalice on 1 is tempting. Our opponent does not have a lot on 2, because our opponent is playing... when you play Arbor Elf, and you're playing Utopia Sprawl, you're trying to jump from 1 to 3, which means you're not going to be playing a lot of 2 mana cost things, because you are trying to hit 3 on turn 2. And we can't put Chalice on 3, so I think putting Chalice on 1 is still correct. But we're going to attack first. Obviously, we'd just like to draw lands from here on out, because we have plenty of action, we just need to be able to cast it. Unfortunately, we don't have a Wastes out, otherwise we could play Thought-Knot Seer. And that would definitely be the play here, but we do not. Okay, go to combat, attack for 3. Opponent does not block. They go to 9, Chalice on 1. Pass the turn. I think playing Eldrazi Tron involves considerable more luck than playing green or blue Tron does, simply because you don't rely on getting Tron, but if you get Tron, it's incredibly powerful. And so, I'm not really sure. We'll attack our opponent for 3. And I guess at this point we can put Chalice on 2, because we're not doing anything else, and we don't have that many 2-drops. Actually, we probably have enough. Let me check and make sure. So we'll have Spatial Contortions. Walking Ballista we can cast on 4, so it doesn't matter. We would be taking ourselves off of Mazemind Tome. I'm actually going to not do that, because if we get a Mazemind Tome, I want to be able to play it and activate it. So, we'll see. I think putting Chalice on 2 here would be wrong. Our opponent stomps Matter Reshaper, which at least gives us a card. Hopefully it's a land. It's a Thought-Knot Seer. Alright, but that does get us 1 card deeper in our deck, which is important. Opponent's going to exile Matter Reshaper, drain us for 2, and they're probably just playing Bone Crusher this turn. Yep, there's Bone Crusher. So Klothys turns on, they attack us for 5, we take 5, go to 12, and our opponent has pretty well turned this around. But this is a very tough matchup for us, for a lot of reasons. We do get our 5th land, which is important, because we can play Sky Sovereign, and kill Bone Crusher, which turns off Klothys temporarily. Pass the turn. If we draw another land, we can play Ugin, and Ugin really, really helps, because Ugin can either answer Blood Moon, or start making creatures we can use to gain card advantage. Okay, opponent plays Scavenging Ooze, gets in for 5, takes us down to 5, we untap, we draw Expedition Map, and I think that means we die. We can map for a Wastes, but we can't cast anything then, because we don't have mana. We could map for any land, really, and that would be the same thing. Yeah, we needed to draw land this turn to really have any chance. That's unfortunate. Alright, so we go down pretty easily. in round 1, but our opponent is playing one of the toughest counters we have. When you're relying on your lands to gain some kind of advantage like Tron or Eldrazi Tron does, Blood Moon and Pillage are things you don't want to run into. Alright, we'll play first. Hopefully we can wail on people in the loser's bracket, though. Okay, this is a pretty good hand. I'm going to keep. We are going to start Eldrazi Temple Mimic. Opponent mulligans to 6, which is what you want to see when you're playing a deck like this, because we do not naturally gain card advantage very well. Okay. Cast Mimic. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays Colonnade. We don't have Caverns, so this matchup is going to be considerably harder than it should. But play Matter Reshaper so we can get in 1 extra point of damage here. Go to combat, attack for 3. Opponent goes down to 17. Play Misty and pass. We draw Urza's Tower. So go to combat. We want to try and force interaction so we can resolve map and activate Tron. Okay, opponent takes 5, goes to 12. Play Tower, play map. Okay, opponent's going to counter. Okay, they have a mana leak. We can't pay for it, unfortunately. So we're going to play a Walking Ballista on 1 and pass the turn. I didn't realize that Eldrazi Mimic triggered off of any colorless creature. That's something worth noting. Okay, so opponent plays a Scalding Tarn. Passes the turn. We untap. We draw a Maze Mind Tome. So play Seagate Wreckage. Go to combat. Attack for 6. See if we can force any interaction here. Okay, opponent takes it and goes to 5. We have 2 options, and I kind of just want to slam Karn. Okay. Opponent cracks Scalding Tarn. Gets an island. Remans Karn. Sure. Opponent opts. Opponent basically has to have a Wrath in order to survive. They are playing a Yorion deck, I just now realized. And they concede. So, our opponent is playing Yorion Control, which I really disagree with Remand being in their deck, but what can you do? I'm going to drop Spatial Contortion and Dismember, and I think I just bring in 2 Walking Ballistas, really. Yeah. We're going to hope that we have enough disruption. Chalice of the Void here, I'm really regretting not having 4, because it's a card that's going to be very good versus our opponent's deck. Yorion decks rely a lot on having permanents that are cheap, that draw cards. They also rely a lot on having cantrips to kind of make up for the consistency they lose having a larger deck. Really, I almost want to play Thorn of Amethyst in a deck like this. It's a sort of reasonable replacement for Chalice that's a lot cheaper, but it does different things, and you need to build the deck differently if you're going to do that. I used to play a deck I called Eldrazi Mud, which ran both Chalice and Thorn, and you ran things like Simian Spirit Guide. It was big when there was a brief moment when Storm was like top of the metagame. Okay. Us being on the draw makes this hand a lot worse. We have 2 lands and 2 Maze Mind Tomes and a Chalice. I think I'm going to mulligan. I'd like to have a Temple in my opener. This is a lot better. We'll keep. I'm going to put back Tectonic Edge. If we draw a Mimic, this hand gets better and more aggressive. Opponent starts Island. They probably just have Opt. Play Temple. Play Map. If this gets Spell Pierced, I'll be really surprised. Okay, they've cast Opt. They leave a card on top. Okay, and play Plains and pass. We draw Smasher. So play Mine. We're just going to run out of Matter Reshaper here. Pass the turn. My opponent has a path that's actually good, because that gets us up to Smasher next turn. Or Karn if we want it. Okay, opponent plays an island and passes. Draw Radiant Fountain. So, play Bonder's Enclave. Run out Smasher. Fully expecting a counterspell. This is one of the lands that we did replace Cavern with. So, Porter, no. Okay, opponent has Snapcaster for Path. They Path Smasher and have to discard. They discard Shark Typhoon. Get our other wastes. Pass the turn. They play a Flooded Strand and get in for 2. we untap. Draw a Matter Reshaper. Okay. Okay, so we play Radiant Fountain here. Gain some life. And we're going to start with Walking Ballista. And I think we're just going to put Walking Ballista on too. Our follow-up will be Matter Reshaper. We're trying to run our opponent out of answers as best we can, then play Karn, basically. Okay. Cryptic. Yep. Play Matter Reshaper. We are past the point of path being good, so if my opponent paths us, it's actually quite bad. I am going to block, because I don't mind the draw here. Another Karn. Well, our opponent knows we have Karn. We untap. We draw a third Karn. So, crack map. We'll get a power plant. Play power plant. Cast Karn. Our opponent almost certainly has another Cryptic with the way that they, like, all of their counterspells are 2 mana, I think, except for Cryptic and maybe Archmage's Charm. My opponent would have put Yorion in their hand if they had something other than Cryptic. So, we didn't have a choice. That was our only play that turn. I just knew my opponent had a Cryptic. Opponent still has more cards in their deck than most people start with, and I could still accurately guess what they're holding on to. I feel good about that. So opponent draws Cryptic, plays field, we untap, we draw a map. So play map, crack map. This is my opponent's only opportunity to field. Okay, they don't take it. Play tower, cast Karn. Okay, opponent Cryptics, counter draw. Alright, my opponent has another counter spell. That's really the only explanation for them playing this way. So play Karn. Okay, Wish. And we are going to pick up Sundering Titan. So, kind of have a problem here. Our opponent will be able to take us off of Tron, and we don't have any more basics, and our opponent's going to find that out this turn. They just concede? Dude, like, you had us dead. You just had to activate field and still have Cryptic mana. Alright, well, we lost to a control opponent who horrendously misplayed. We should not have won that game. We might have won the match, but we should not have won that game. So, alright. I will see you guys in round 3. Alright, welcome back everybody to round 3. I would love to play first. This is Natural Tron with a Maze Mind Tome, but nothing to play off of it. You know what, I'm gonna keep. We're gonna see what happens. I've never kept a hand like this with Eldrazi Tron, so. Play map, pass the turn. My luck is I'll end up top decking the last Tron piece, and it'll be kind of like a blank draw. Alright, opponent plays Verdant Catacombs. Cracks it. They're gonna go get a Black Source or some kind of Thoughtseize variant. And they're going to take Maze Mind Tome. Wow. It's like I'm psychic. Player is this tower. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent untaps. Plays a Windswept Teeth. Corrects Windswept Teeth. It's a forest. Probably... Oh, I would have guessed the Delirium guy, really. Flayer, that I can't remember the name of right now. Get a power plant. Untap. We draw a Thought-Knot Seer. Well, it's something we can cast, and it's still a turn early. So, take a look at our opponent's hand. They have a Siege Rhino and a Lingering Souls. Siege Rhino is a problem because it's bigger than Thought-Knot. Lingering Souls is a problem because it can stonewall a lot of our creatures for a long time. So I'm going to take Lingering Souls because that's effectively like taking 2 cards out of our opponent's hand. That might be incorrect, as I've not played this matchup, but we'll see. Okay, opponent plays Marsh Flats. Passes, we untap, we draw an Urza's Mine, so go to combat, attack for 4, no blocks for our opponent, they go down to 12, play a Tectonic Edge, pass the turn. Okay, they fetch up an Overgrown Tomb, untapped, and cycle an Indatha Triome. Okay, opponent probably just plays like Plains Rhino, Plains Mystic. In that case, we're going to take out Godless Shrine. They have another black-green land, so taking them off of white mana seems like slightly better. I don't know that it's going to make too big of a difference. Well, they had a second Stoneforge. We have Sword of Feast and Famine and Batterskull. Okay. We're going to need some good top decks. Like Reality Smasher would be pretty fantastic. Mimic is not one of those cards. So play Radiant Fountain, gain some life. Play Mimic, pass the turn. Okay, at this point I'd kind of like to top deck a Walking Ballista, so we could answer just about anything. I could have attacked, but my opponent would definitely throw their creatures under the bus with all of the extra value they had just gotten. I'm not super worried about getting hit with a sword. The biggest problem is that they untap their lands and then they can cast Siege Rhino, which is a big deal. So maybe I should chump with Mimic here. Pro Black and Green doesn't really matter. And we're not worried about discarding, but I don't want my opponent to play other things that are going to be bigger than Thought-Knot. Okay, we draw Ugin. Ugin can make a bunch of chump blockers and get us some card advantage, which is good. We could destroy Goyf and force our opponent to re-equip, but then Ugin looks like he's pretty soft. So what we're going to do is we're going to attack. Okay. Opponent chumps with Stoneforge. It's kind of what I anticipated. And then we'll play Ugin and uptick him. Chalice of the Void. Okay. Well, we could put that on 4. But our opponent's going to play a Siege Rhino anyway, unless they're going to wait till our end step and put down a Batterskull. The Spirit's pretty firmly on chump blocking duty right now. Top decked a Maelstrom Pulse. And they didn't attack. Alright, Blast Zone. Blast Zone is excellent, because we can tick that up to 2, and then take out all of our opponent's creatures. So, pass the turn. Our opponent also tapping out prevents them from putting in Batterskull, which is nice. Okay, they play a Blooming Marsh. Attack for 7. We'll chump with a Spirit. Okay, we get a Chalice. And they play a Siege Rhino. Alright. Well, this means we can take out the Tarmogoyf and the Stoneforge. And we get a Reality Smasher. Okay. So we are going to blow up the creatures. Play Wastes. Play Smasher. Go to combat. Attack for 5. Okay. Opponent goes to 5 now. I know my opponent has Fatal Pushes almost certainly. They have Hand Hate. And we really only have like Expedition maps in the 1-drop slot. So we're going to play Chalice on 1. There are other numbers that might be more effective versus my opponent's deck, but given my relative inexperience playing any form of Eldrazi Tron, I don't know about setting this on higher numbers than 1, which ones would be more effective, because we have a lot in the 4-drop slot and such. So, like, having an opportunity to have played that on 4 would have been awesome, except we would stop ourselves from playing any future Thought-Knot Seers and things like that. Okay. Get a Maze Mind Tome, which is quite nice. It's a redraw here. A second Smasher. Well, that makes my job pretty easy. Go to combat. Alright. Opponent gives up. Yeah, we just had to all-out attack there. They were willing to sacrifice a Siege Rhino to block a Smasher, but second Smasher got him. Which is what I feel like happens to me a lot when I play that matchup. Or not any. If I play against Eldrazi Tron, I don't play Jund or Abzan. So first off, Sundering Titan will be amazing versus my opponent's deck because of how many typed lands they play. If we cast a Sundering Titan at any point, I'm pretty sure we just win. Ratchet Bomb seems slightly better to me than Spatial Contortion. Spatial Contortion can kill Stoneforge Mystic, but I think that's about it. The rest of my deck, like Torpor Orb, stops like Rhino, Stoneforge. That's a wish target. That's not a sideboard target. So, alright. I think that's the one adjustment we're going to make, and we're going to run it back. Alright. I've seen worse hands. This hand is good because it has a lot of action. There's a lot of things we can top deck to make this hand even better. Like, if I top deck a Temple into a Temple, I'm probably going to win this game. Okay, opponent starts Inquisition, so they can take Expedition Map or Matter Reshaper. Map is probably the best target for them to take, as preventing us from tutoring out some of our broken lands is the way I think they'd want to go. So, opponent does do that, and we start Urza's Tower. Unfortunately, we do not have a third land at the moment for this Matter Reshaper. Would really, really hope to top deck a Eldrazi Temple, because then we can play Matter Reshaper into Thought Knot. Okay, well, play a Wastes, pass the turn. We will at least get to the mana for Matter Reshaper, though it's going to be a little bit late, as my opponent's going to resolve a Batter Skull. If we'd had the double Temple start, we could have taken their Batter Skull, which would have been sweet. Okay, play Matter Reshaper. We want Matter Reshaper to die, and as soon as possible, because that's going to get us one card deeper into our deck, and has an actually pretty good chance of hitting a land here. Okay, opponent plays their 4th mana. Okay, they attack for 4, we are going to block. Draw Karn, Great Creator, and they play a Siege Rhino. We do not draw another land, which I think means we're done. We'll play a Mimic, pass the turn, but I don't think there's a land or anything that we can draw at this point that could get us out of this. If we had 2 Tron pieces, an out would be top decking the last Tron piece, but yeah, opponent's got a sword. I'm going to go ahead and call this one here. The hand was a little risky. It hinged pretty heavily on Expedition Map, and my opponent was able to take it, so that means I probably shouldn't have kept that on the draw, but I don't know, risk versus reward. We had a couple of draws to hit good lands, and we didn't. Okay. No adjustments going into game 3. Alright, we'll play first. Oh, it's so close. Keeping an opener with Eldrazi Temple is very nice. Any land gets us to map activation. The problem is, it's like, oh, we even have a thought. I'm going to mulligan. I want a better hand than that. This is close. I'm going to go to 5. Alright, well, this hand is significantly worse. My opponent just conceded. They mulliganed to 5, and were like, I don't want to play anymore, and quit. I don't know if you guys can see what's going on here, but like, had I kept this hand, okay, we would have gotten a 3rd land, so we could have played Matter Reshapers, but like, we were not favored to win that. I think my opponent mulliganed to 5 and must have gotten no lands, and were like, well, I can't win on 4, concede. Alright, well, I'll take a victory. I'll see you guys in round 4. That was really surprising. Did not expect that. Alright, round 4, here we go. Alright, we're going to keep this hand because we have the technical number of lands we need, but at the same time we also have the insane high roll potential of hitting the 3rd Tron land, which would be incredibly powerful. So we'll start tower, pass the turn. So my opponent playing a Kitesail Freebooter here can take nothing. Thalia does nothing to us. The problem is if my opponent Meddling Mages us and names something like Matter Reshaper, we're probably boned. They also are going to go larger than we are, much quicker. So we either need to top deck Temple or the last Tron piece, which is not bad. That's a 8 out of 52 chance. And like I said, we're not particularly worried about a Thalia. Alright, Chalice. We can either play Mimic or we can play Chalice this turn. I think if we had the option, we'd put Chalice on 2, but our opponent has Vial, and they have Vial on 1. They can just leave it on 1 if we put Chalice on 1. I think playing Mimic here is better. Watch my opponent like untap and play 4 1-drops. It'll be like, well, should have done it, but I think this is the best play that we have here. Okay, opponent takes a Vial to 2. They'll probably like Freebooter and Meddling Mage us. I suspect that's my opponent's best line. Freebooter can now take Chalice, but that's not that big of a deal because my opponent has Vials in their deck, as well as Caverns. Like if you have Cavern of Souls, you can force through stuff. You can force stuff through a Chalice because it can't be countered. Which is one reason why this deck plays Cavern of Souls, is you can put Chalice on, 3 or 4, and still cast your threats through it. If you have Cavern plus Tron. Like, it's not really that unreasonable. And playing without Cavern is definitely suboptimal by a significant margin. But, like, we're doing fine. We're 2-1 in this league right now, and really, we probably could be 3-0. I'm just pretty inexperienced with this deck, and I'd like to get more practice, and I'd like to try some more stuff with it. Not to say that there is a lot of different ways you can take the Eldrazi Tron strategy, but I can think of 3. You can play Stompy, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. You might want to make more adjustments than I did, but you can play the Stompy variant, you can play the standard Eldrazi Tron variant, or you can do, in a combo metagame, you can play Eldrazi Mud, which is my other variation that runs Thorn of Amethysts and Simian Spirit Guides, which is a lot of fun because it's meant to like maximize opponent names the one Eldrazi we're not holding, which is good. Let's see. So now they have to decide on whether or not they're going to attack or if they have other spells they need to cast. Opponent's attack here is pretty safe. Phantasmal Image, Meddling Mage, and naming Matter Reshaper would be pretty backbreaking. Thought-Knot Seer also sucks. Walking Ballista. Okay. Well, that's our number one way to deal with Meddling Mages. Opponent attacks for 6, that's fine. Okay. Really hoping for the last Tron land here, because Thought-Knot Seer into Matter Reshaper or Thought-Knot Seer into Chalice on 1 would be very good. It will untap. There it is. So play Thought-Knot. Take a look at what's going on in our opponent's hand. Hopefully they have at least one spell we can nab. This should allow us to race our opponent, at least currently. Okay, they have a Mantis Rider and a Noble Hierarch. They don't have a Cavern, and they don't have Aether Vial on 1, so we have the option of then casting Matter Reshaper or putting Chalice on 1. I'm going to take Mantis Rider, and we're going to use Eldrazi Mimic's ability. Go ahead and attack for 4. Question is Noble Hierarch important enough to deny our opponent the ability to cast 1-drops? Now that Aether Vial is on 2, a Chalice on 1 takes them off of Noble Hierarch, further Champions of the Parish, or, what's it called? Noble Hierarch, Champions of the Parish, and Aether Vial. Whereas playing a Matter Reshaper gives us a good blocker. I think playing a Chalice on 1 makes sense. And we can pay 3 because Thalia. Perfect. This also means further, like, if they play Kitesail Freebooter, we can just dodge Kitesail Freebooter and then play out our hand. This turns off a good portion of their deck from this position. The problem is my opponent is not in a bad position right now. The only creature they can currently attack with is Champion of the Parish, and when we play our Matter Reshapers, their board is going to get a lot worse. Meddling Mage. Our opponent did not look at our hand, so this is a blind name. They named Thought-Knot Seer, which does suck, but I don't think matters too much in the grand scheme of things. They attack for 5. We untap. We draw Tectonic Edge. So, play Matter Reshaper. We will use Eldrazi Mimic's ability. Go to combat. Attack for 7. See if our opponent does any blocking. Oh, I shouldn't have attacked here. I completely missed the fact that Thalia had first strike, and I know that intrinsically. So this is a chump attack. Okay? Opponent takes 4, loses Mimic. I think it was still ingrained in my head last turn that if I play Thought-Knot, that attack is okay. And we'll play Tectonic Edge and play Matter Reshaper. Okay. Pass the turn. I would almost consider double blocking Champion if they attacked. The only thing that would get us at that point, I think, would be a Thalia's Lieutenant, and they can't vial it in anymore, so it's not like it's going to surprise us. If they play Thalia's Lieutenant, I'll just chump with 1. If they attack with more than 1 creature, I will trade Matter Reshaper off on the probably Walking Ballista Meddling Mage. Alright, another Phantasmal Image on Thought-Knot Seer. So they can take our Thought-Knot, but I mean, like, it's not like we were playing it anyway. It actually helps us get down to Seagate Wreckage. Opponent is in a slightly precarious situation here, and I don't think they can actually attack from this position. If they're going to just try and aggro us down, they attack with everything. They can't be scared of... Okay. I think we double block Champion, because Thalia's tax doesn't matter as much. Although Thought-Knot Seer, drawing Thought-Knot Seer would be kind of minimal, actually. I think we double block Champion. And we're kind of hoping for like an All Is Dust. Okay, we draw Karn, which is excellent. And a Reality Smasher, which is okay. Alright, untap. We draw Ballista. Let's take a look at our sideboard here. So we can play Karn and we can Wish. We can get Sky Sovereign. Problem is, we are very close to dead. So we currently have 9 mana. Karn takes 4, that leaves us with 5. That means that we can't take Wormcoil Engine here, despite the fact that that would probably just win us the game. We could play Karn, down tick, get Sky Sovereign. Sky Sovereign. Oh no, we can't play Sky Sovereign because Karn costs 5 mana because of Thalia. We could play Seagate Wreckage, play Karn, Wish for Ensnaring Bridge, and play... Oh, we can't even play a no-value Ballista. So hang on, can I even survive? Play Seagate Wreckage, play Karn, Wish for Ensnaring Bridge, play Ensnaring Bridge. That uses all of our mana, and we get down to 2 cards in hand, which means they can attack with these 4 creatures. So that means we block and die. Okay, let me look at the sideboard again. See, because I've got to have something here that's going to be useful. Ratchet Bomb, unfortunately, does not hit anything at this point. We can't Wish for Spatial Contortion. Man, Walking Ballista would be insane, but our opponent named Walking Ballista on Meddling Mage. Yeah, I think they've got us, because it's just too many different random taxes that happen to line up. My opponent played 4 Meddling Mages this game. We could play Karn, we can animate Chalice to block, but that leaves us with 4 mana and we can't cast Smasher. Actually, it's named anyway. Hang on. We can Wish for Liquid Metal Coating, so 5 for Karn, Wish for Liquid Metal Coating, 3 for Coating, we have 1 mana left over. We could kill Meddling Mage or Thought-Knot Seer. Problem is that leaves us with 1 mana too little to play Walking Ballista, which is I think what we would need in order to win. Alright, we'll play Seagate Wreckage. Play Karn. If only we could have killed this Thalia. I should have double blocked there. Then we would be at 2, and this would be even harder. Alright, let's Wish. Okay, just to double check, I think Ensnaring Bridge is power greater than the number of cards in hand, not greater than or equal to. Yeah. So we'll take Liquid Metal Coating. Play Liquid Metal Coating. And we're going to use it to kill Thought-Knot. Because I think the redraw could get us... I guess it could only really get us Dismember. Oh, you know what the out was? The out... No, actually that wasn't, never mind. I was going to say the out was not playing a land, using all of our mana, and then seeing if we could draw a Tron piece, but then we still couldn't cast Walking Ballista because we could only answer one of the Phantasms. Okay. Well, we'll concede, because our opponent has a stat on board. That's highly unfortunate. Our opponent played 4 Meddling Mages, and just happened to name all the cards. Which, I guess is pretty easy versus this deck, considering that, like, we don't have that many, like, diversified threats. So, okay, I'm going to get rid of Eldrazi Mimic in favor of Walking Ballista, not Sundering Titan. That was a misclick. And I really think that's the only, like, sideboard that we actually do. I could bring in Ratchet Bomb, but I think I actually want Spatial Contortion over another Eldrazi Mimic. Basically anything else we could wish for, so... And we should wish for. Alright, I'd love to play first. I mean, this seems good. We'll keep. Opponent mulligans, which is good news. Okay. Start Temple. Second Temple start would be absurd. Okay, opponent plays Unclaimed Territory, naming Human, and an Aether Vial. We untap. We draw a Power Plant. So play Power Plant, pass the turn. We do have a Spatial Contortion if our opponent plays, like, Kitesail Freebooter. We can kill it in response to its trigger, and they just get to look at our hand. I'm glad that they updated the wording on things like Kitesail Freebooter and Tide Hollow Skull. Well, I mean, so it's not like Tide Hollow Sculler is what I was trying to say. Alright, opponent plays Meddling Mage. Pretty sure they have to name Thought-Knot here. They might name Dismember. That'd be interesting. But I don't think our opponent would know to name Spatial Contortion. I think if I was my opponent, I would see this as I was hoping to draw a second Temple. And if I'm hoping to draw a second Temple and have 4 mana on turn 2, they should name Thought-Knot. They're struggling, though. So they might name the wrong card here. Nope. They name Thought-Knot, which is fine. Alright. Kill the mage. Untap. Second Tron piece. Thought Not Seer. See if we can disrupt what our opponent's doing. Okay. So my opponent has another Aether Vial. They'll be able to put Vial on 2. Gaddock Teague is non-creature spells. Honestly, I think we just take Gaddock Teague. Because they can play Thalia, but Thalia doesn't do anything to our current hand. And Phantasmal Image doesn't do anything with Thalia. Gaddock Teague prevents us from casting Karn and our Sacrifice All Colored Permanents card that I can't remember. All is Dust. I was like, I called it by name earlier. Why can't I remember what it is? So we're going to take Gaddock Teague. Not because we're particularly scared of it, just because I think that's our best draw, or our best take, excuse me. Karn shuts off Aether Vials if we get him. And we're following this up with a Reality Smasher, and our opponent's hand seems pretty anemic. I think they literally kept it off the strength of that Meddling Mage being like, we just need some kind of interaction and this hand seems okay. Okay, they drew Ancient Ziggurat. So they probably play Thalia and Aether Vial here. Well, I mean, they play Thalia, and they're not going to play Aether Vial. We untap, we draw Wastes. So, play Power Plant. Play Smasher. Oh, I guess my opponent could Vial in Phantasmal Image to copy one of our Eldrazi. I didn't think about that. I should have taken Phantasmal Image then. So we're just going to attack with Smasher because we identified that our opponent can do that, which means they're pretty much forced to Phantasmal Image Smasher and trade. Yeah. So this is bad, but it's not the end of the world. Unfortunately, Ugin costs 7, so we're really far off of casting Ugin unless we top deck the Tron lands, or the tower. If my opponent just casts a Vial here, then that's probably fine. Yeah, you are subject to your own Thalia as well. And they play a Cavern, and I believe that's their last card in hand. Okay, we untap, we draw Karn. Okay, so Karn costs 5 mana. Play Tectonic Edge. And we're not going to attack for 1 turn just to protect Karn. The only way this goes wrong, if we wish, is for our opponent to play a Mantis Rider off the top, which is not impossible. But I'm going to get Sky Sovereign, and we'll just ping down anything our opponent plays forever. Okay. That happened to get us there, which is nice. No further adjustments, we'll just run it back. Yeah, I shouldn't have taken Teague. Teague shuts off Karn, Ugin, All is Dust, and Chalice on more than one. Oh no, add Chalice all together because it's non-creature spells that contain X. I should have definitely taken Phantasmal Image there, and I think we would have won a lot harder. Especially given that my opponent top decked 2 lands in a row, and we would have attacked for 9 3 times. Yeah, I think Phantasmal Image was the correct pick there. Luckily, it didn't matter for us, so... we have Blast Zone, and we have Expedition Map. Dismember is nice, and so is Maze Mind Tome. I'm going to keep this despite being not a very proactive creature hand, and hoping that this interaction is enough here. We can use Expedition Map to get Eldrazi Temple, which will get us to Smasher, unless my opponent Meddling Mages. They did mulligan to 6, and they are on the play, so we do have an advantage in total number of cards right now. Eldrazi Temple off the top is sweet. So play Temple, play Map. This can be a turn 3 Reality Smasher if we want it to. In fact, I really don't have a reason for it not to be. Our opponent did not start with Aether Vial, though, which means they probably have more action and just no instant speed shenanigans. Okay, Kitesail Freebooter. Our opponent has their pick of Dismember and Maze Mind Tome. They take Dismember. We untap. We draw Ugin. Yeah, I think the plan is to just go for a turn 3 Smasher. Go ahead and crack Map and get Temple now. I don't think Humans runs Fulminator, so not 100% sure what they could do here. Okay, pass the turn. I mean, they could Meddling Mage, Reality Smasher, which would be annoying. But we have a Blast Zone, so it's not the end of the world. It does set us back quite a bit, though. Okay, I get in for 1. We draw Urza's Mine. Play Blast Zone. Pass the turn. I also don't think they run Ghost Quarter, because their mana base is like so color intensive. We're going to take a couple of hits here, but our opponent is choked on mana currently. So the thing that would make us this toughest for us is if my opponent played 2 1-drops. Doesn't look like they're going to. Okay. Opponent attacks for 5. We take 5, go to 14. Charge counter on Blast Zone. Untap. Draw Seagate Wreckage. Play Eldrazi Temple. Pass the turn. So if my opponent just attacks and takes us to 8, I will wait till my opponent's end step to crack Blast Zone. Because if they have a second Meddling Mage, or really even a Kitesail Freebooter, we could be in trouble. No, maybe we want to... No, we want to crack pre-combat damage because if my opponent has another Meddling Mage, we have Dismember, and we will have the lands to Dismember and then play Reality Smasher, and that saves us half of our life total. They don't have any instant speed tricks they can play because the only colored mana they have is for creatures. Okay, we get back Dismember. Okay, they play Thalia, which we are not particularly afraid of. We draw a second Reality Smasher. So players is mine. Play Smasher. We can't cast Dismember, but that's okay. Smash in for 5. Okay, put it Phantasmal Images Reality Smasher. Gets in for 7. Okay, that's sort of problematic. We draw Spatial Contortion. Spatial Contortion lets us play Reality Smasher and kill their Reality Smasher. But if they have a second Phantasmal Image... Actually, we can't Spatial Contortion, can we? Because this will cost 3. We can Dismember. Alright, we'll play a land. We have 5 mana for non-Eldrazi things, and 7 mana for Eldrazi things. So we play Smasher. The thing is, I think we can only attack with 1 Smasher this turn. Because we're going to have to leave up Dismember to kill our opponent's Smasher. And we can discard Maze Mind Tome. But if they have another Phantasmal Image, we have to be able to block. Okay, opponent plays Cavern. Name's Wizard. Interesting. So you have to pay 4 and go to 3. We are going to discard. Well, opponent has to sacrifice, so we don't actually have to discard. But now, if my opponent attacks us down to 1, we can Spatial Contortion their Deputy and swing back for lethal. Unless for some ungodly reason they have a gut shot. At which point we're dead. They might not attack, actually. And that would save them. Unless we draw another removal spell. Nope, they're going to attack. They're going to take us down to 1. Okay. We untap. We draw Walking Ballista. Play a Wastes. Spatial Contortion. Walking Ballista confirms that we would have killed them even had they left Thalia back to block. So, go to combat. Swing lethal. Alright. We got there. 3 and 1. Not bad. So, round 5. Here we go. This seems like a pretty fair hand. We'll keep. Turn 1, Mimic. Turn 2, Chalice on 1. Chalice on 1 going to be very important versus a deck casting Sleight of Hands. And a Maze Mind Tome to follow all that up. So, turn 1, Mimic. Pass the turn. Okay, opponent plays Baral. Ideally, we would play Chalice on 2. But unfortunately, we do not have... What is happening? Moto. Okay. Chalice on 1. We're going to shut off all of our opponent's cantrips. If you could play Chalice on 2, it would be much better versus Storm, because then they can't cast rituals, they can't cast cost reducers, they can't cast a whole host of things. They can't even cast Grape Shot. Well, I mean, they can, and the Storm copies can still kill you, but can't cast Manamorphose. Gifts ungiven. Okay. So we dump the rituals, I think. Yeah. Okay, we're probably still dead, because that's a lot of rituals in the grave. I probably should have dumped Manamorphose and Past in Flames, so they couldn't reuse Past in Flames and minimize the number of draws that they have. Grape Shot for 10, flashback Past in Flames, Grape Shot. They got us. Could you imagine if this was Thorn of Amethyst? That'd be great. Okay. So, opponent's deck is Storm. How do we beat Storm? We beat Storm, I guess, by bringing in all of our Grave Hate. Because we kind of need it in the main deck. Because we're going to need it before we could ever cast Karn. And we'll bring in our Spatial Contortion. And we're going to cut down on Mimic, because Mimic doesn't really do anything. Walking Ballista, theoretically more useful than some of our other stuff. But it is very slow. So is All Is Dust and things like that. I suppose I could bring in Ratchet Bomb instead of something like All Is Dust, and it might be more effective. Probably actually is, because my opponent does play Empty the Warrens, as far as I know. Okay, I'll run it back. And this is not a good matchup for us, simply because we're not maxed out on Chalice of the Voids. Alright, we'll play first. Not keepable. Much better, still not amazing. Okay, I'm going to put back probably Smasher, honestly. Start Temple. Pass the turn. We basically have to leave up Dismember at all times. Okay, opponent starts Sleight of Hand. So next turn we cannot play Ratchet Bomb. Relic is an excellent draw. So play Bonder's Enclave. We could play Matter Reshaper this turn, but if my opponent like rituals Manamorphose, Baral, and then continues ritualing, we die. So we're going to play it safe and play Relic and hold up Dismember. Exile that Sleight of Hand. Okay, opponent plays a Shivan Reef into a Pyretic Ritual, into an Aria of Flame. Alright, so we gain 10 life temporarily, and we are about to die very quickly. Grafdigger's Cage. So players is mine. Exile Pyretic Ritual. We'll play Matter Reshaper and leave up Dismember. And Relic Activation, of course. But we're probably going to die, I think, a little too fast. Okay, Desperate Ritual. Manamorphose. Manamorphose. So there's some notion I should play Ratchet Bomb there, so that we might be able to answer this Aria of Flame. But I can all but guarantee you that would never happen. Like, there's just no way we'll ever get to enough counters on Ratchet Bomb to answer that permanent. Wow. So we just took 10 damage from that, and we'll be at 6. I think our best bet is if our opponent's holding 2 lands, or we draw a Thought Knot and take their last non-land card. I'm going to exile the grave here and draw. Another Matter Reshaper is not what you want to see. So play Matter Reshaper. Yeah, so Ratchet Bomb would have made it to a whole 2 counters. But my opponent casts any spell and we die. Literally any spell. In a deck that does nothing but cast spells. Okay, they're holding only lands, so this theoretically made it to 3. Had I played it instead of Matter Reshaper. Play map. Oh, never mind, we just died a remand. Oh, that sucks. I should have been thinking about that, like what spell could they have that they have not been able to play, and remand should have crossed my mind, and I should have waited one more turn just to see if I could get away with cracking Ratchet Bomb. Well, I think it might have been 2 turns, but anyway, we still opened a treasure chest, and like I said, I'm kind of inexperienced with that deck, so I'm really glad that we did win our entry back. We got Ever After, which is a fun card, as well as 15 play points, which is not bad. Let me open up the deck really quick. So, I do think this version is inferior to regular Eldrazi Tron. I think Eldrazi Mimic is just not powerful enough. There's so many things that answer Eldrazi Mimic. And half the time, if you're not curving out immediately, like if you don't start Temple, Eldrazi Mimic, you're going to have a bad time. So I think I would like to cut Eldrazi Mimic and probably run like the 4th Maze Mind Tome, another Dismember, another Spatial Contortion, and then I'm not really sure what else I would play, but to finish that 4th slot out, maybe another Ugin, or like a Karn Liberated that we could high roll into, something like that. Maybe even a 3rd Walking Ballista. One moment. All right. I think those are the adjustments that I would make. I'm looking forward to playing more decks like this in the future. I do have some ideas for how to improve this with budget concerns. And when I do get a hold of the other 2 Chalices of the Void and Caverns of Souls, I'll look at playing this deck again in the regular Eldrazi Tron form. In the meantime, I might throw together Eldrazi Mud, and you might see that in the off-meta deck days when we play Mad Meta Magic. But for now, this is fine. I think the sideboard was actually okay. I never really ran into a problem with sideboard wishing, other than that one game versus humans where it was just like, what do we get out of the sideboard? Because nothing we can cast. And I really don't know that there is an artifact that would save us from that position, or that we would want to be running that artifact in the sideboard. So, all in all, pretty happy with the deck. Pretty happy with how it performed despite the budget considerations that we did have. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, drop a comment, let me know what you liked or disliked, and subscribe to the channel if you're so inclined. If you want to catch me streaming, I stream Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on Twitch. 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And about an hour after this video goes up, so about the time that you're listening to me ramble on about this, we'll have the stream VOD from this Wednesday's stream going up. So, yeah, if you're interested, please give it a watch. We played some interesting decks like 4-land Charbelcher, and did a Supreme draft, and did an Unexpected Results Tron 2-man, which was kind of fun. Got to cast Warp World. It was a very silly time. Alright, well, I've rambled enough, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!